we go. Yeah, guys, I am Gary from Snap One partner stores. That's all 28 of us, I think, right now, with the addition of Austin, Texas. So welcome. But we do this every single Wednesday. We got the best of the best on panel, if you will. Of course, it's Zoom land, but it's been very effective. And why? Because the panelists are incredible. They know what they're talking about. They're passionate, as are we. But we do this each and every Wednesday in order to get you in front of these tremendous technicians, if you will, and ask the questions. Let's look at this. Let's learn about this product. Let's get to work on some of this product. It's all here for you. We've done an incredible amount of work to set up the kind of choices that the Snap One partner stores have for you. And that's another thing, even Eugene kind of clued in on that. Our dealers have choices in a sense. And Chris and your team really help kind of find where that niche lies with whatever product we're talking about today being definitive. We love speaker talk because everybody's got their own opinion on speakers, right? And how it's sounding. Price point's definitely part of it. Feature sets, of course, how it's made and just getting into it here. You see I'm in one of our warehouses here today. So we are definitely want to dive deep and talk about it and get your perspectives of definitive and a lot of exciting things. So I'm recording this, guys. Everything's going to be in your inbox on Friday morning. So I'll get you a full follow-up email kind of recapping this whole entire conversation. We're going to be back in I think 5 hours from now, but 2 p.m. West Coast time. We're going to do another session. So if you've got to drop off, you got to come back, re-register and get your butts in here, and let's have this conversation. So happy Wednesday to all you guys from all the Snap AV, Snap AV, I said Snap AV, I'm never going to say that again, Snap One locals, and that is MRI, Custom Plus, AllNet, and of course here in Los Angeles with Volutone. So I'm going to turn it over to one of my best friends out here. You've never met, but man, boy, we just struck up a cool thing together. I see Seth, so I think you're going to start it off. Ladies and gentlemen, Seth Snyder, man. There you go.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to be talking about definitive technology today, and we're very happy to be with Snap. As you can see, they've got the plentiful stock of all those televisions. And we do our best to, at Sound United, to go to where our customers are, and our customers are working with Snap One, and we want to make sure that we work right alongside them so that you can gain access to all these products. So today, we're going to be going through definitive technology. I have been selling this brand off and on for about 15 years. It's one of those brands that really clicked with me as a salesperson. As Gary mentioned, I've done these installs in the past, hearing them in a customer's house. They always please. They're a ton of fun to work with, and they've got some new products out that are going to be key for this upcoming holiday season to help you guys out with this brand, and of course along with Denton and Marantz as well. We have an entire team of essentially trainers out there. I always make the joke that we're called brand activators. This is the brand activation team. That's Southern California speak for on-the-fly tech support and training. So we're basically reps for all of these brands. But I am up in the Northeast, so MRI guys, give me a shout. And then we have Tim Lee up in the Chicagoland market. Pete Medueno. Pete's got the biggest territory square mileage wise. He's out there in Colorado. Jeff Davis is our beach bum out on the West Coast. Kendall is down in Texas, and Chris Ellis, who is also on this call, is down in the Southeast, covering the sunny part with all the good weather this upcoming holiday season, which I'm going to be jealous of. Those QR codes on your screen are our contact cards. So you scan those with your phone just like you would a restaurant menu. The little QR code will dump our contact card into your phone. Please feel free to blow us up. These are all of our personal numbers. They got our email addresses. There's also a couple of good training sites on there. So if you ever have any questions on the fly, or if you're standing in front of a customer, feel free to give us a text, an email, call us up. We answer. The brand we're going to be going over today is Definitive Technology. Now, Definitive Technology as a brand has been around for a while. We're not new to this game. They were founded in 1990 down in Baltimore, the Baltimore, Maryland area. We are still there. That's still where every part is designed, in the Baltimore, Maryland area at our facility. And we try to focus on a value to performance ratio, like anybody does, but we really push the value side. So our speakers are going to punch way above their weight classes, and we're going to have a variety of different options that make it easy to integrate into a normal living room. This company was founded by a couple of audiophiles who know that customers are not going to go to the lengths that audiophiles like myself. I don't even want to call myself an audiophile. I'm an audio enthusiast. That we go in order to, as far as putting massive speakers, taking up space, running wires across the room, putting subwoofers in the middle of the room because that's where acoustically we're done with that. We're trying to make these things easy to integrate into places that normal people live. And we do that with a couple of technologies. Now, here's the one trick that you're going to have throughout the definitive technology line. If you can master these technologies, talking about them and understanding the benefits to them, you're going to be able to communicate the entire definitive technology line to anybody, because we try to trickle down our technologies throughout the entire line. So when I talk about our flagship speaker and I talk about our tweeter, this is the same tweeter we're going to use in everything. Our tweeter is an aluminum dome. It's we have a special annealing process that we use to give it a ceramic coating that and silk surrounds that makes it a nice, smooth, easy to listen to without sacrificing any detail with that tweeter. Our mid-range driver, we have a couple technologies that we utilize in our mid-range. Big one is going to be our balanced double surround system. So what we do, and I'll show you a close-up of all these technologies later, but essentially what it is we take the outside where you typically see a surround system work, where the driver actually attaches to the basket. It's a typical surround, but then we also have another surround system in the center of the driver where the voice coil is, to give you the ability to essentially push the driver a little bit farther. So our 6.5, our 3-inch drivers operate like 4-inch drivers, and our 5-inch drivers operate like 6.5. So it's a way that we are able to deliver that tremendous value that we talked about earlier. And we're going to include our wave guides on the front to give you a nice wide sound stage. And again, we're back to that smoothness in operation when you combine those two technologies, the balanced double surround system and the linear response wave guide. And you're going to see that trickle down through a lot of our speakers. And it's something like don't tell my bosses at Definitive, because they don't they do try always make sure to take a look at all of the frequencies that the speaker's going to play and play equally. But let's call it what it is. We're known for our bass. We put a tremendous amount of emphasis on the bottom end of these speakers. These speakers are a ton of fun. We use low pass radiators in almost all of our speakers. We use low pass radiators, passive bass radiators, low pass radiators, because we like the deeper roll off that we get. We get more output, number one, and we get, because it's more radiating surfaces, and we get to control that curve a lot better and get really, really low, which customers love. I mean, these speakers are just a ton of fun. So that's the technologies. I just gave you kind of like a brief overview of what you're going to be running into for the rest of this presentation, so it's familiar. But I'm going to go through each one of the lines that you're going to have available through your Snap One partner throughout the entire Definitive technology brand. So number one, we're going to start at the top. The BP 9000 series is our flagship series. It's a pretty versatile lineup. We've got 4 towers. We've got 2 surrounds. We've got height modules. We've got 3 center channels. I mean, this thing it's very versatile. This is where we take the technology, we trickle down to the rest of the line. So we talk about these as being full range sound. There's a lot of, if you've got big speakers, good, but to call it full range is difficult. In order to get down to those 20 hertz ranges, you need to have some beefy power. So we build subwoofers into these towers. They are powered subwoofers. And we also use that. So when we talk about full range sound, I mean, there's a lot of speakers. I have speakers at home that are upstairs, right above my head. They are 3-way speakers. They're big towers, but I still have 2 subwoofers with them because they can't get to those lows that you really need a powered subwoofer for. So we build them into the towers. Bipolar configuration is one of the other things that we're going to use in just about all of our speakers. What it does, we put speakers on the front and the back. Now we tune them a little bit differently. The speakers on the front are maximum output throw everything at it but the kitchen sink. Those are your primary speakers. We also put speakers on the back of the speaker, and we tune them down a little bit less in the front so you can get a little bit closer to the wall than other bipolar speakers allow you. But what that does is essentially it allows you to fire sound out into the room as you typically would on a normal speaker. But then on the back of the speaker, that's going to reflect off that rear wall and then spread itself out. So the sound stage you get on these things is just crazy wide. 2 speakers will make your whole damn wall sound like it's on. It's a really great effect for anyone who wants that crazy wide sound stage. They watch a lot of movies, they listen to music, and they are partying. It is that's a great technology that we're going to use on a lot of our speakers. These are also going to have integrated height module options. The screen that you see on your front, this is the 9060 speaker. You see that 3-dimensional. That has an option of adding the front tower that I showed you earlier right there. That height module is actually, you know what, Chris, do you have this?
I do.
Pop that up there. Let's see that.
So real quick, if you're going to talk about here's the top plate, guys. So this top plate is consistent on the 9060s, 40s, and 20s. So it simply just, you hit the D right there on the bottom. It will actually provide a nice little area for you to get your finger up on. You remove this, it's nice and felt on the back. And guys, here is the A90 module itself. And you're going to notice aesthetically, it just fits right on there, and it's a seamless, easy installation. And right here is the connection points on the top of the speaker, and then of course on the A90 module, it's the bottom.
Yeah, so if you're doing if your customer's taking it home doing a self-install, I mean, you can't screw it up. It clicks right in and you're done. It also makes your team's job a lot easier when they're staying at the customer's house. So if you're in a situation where you want to do 3D audio, you want to do Atmos, you want to do DTSX, but you don't have the ability to run wires and put them up in the ceiling where you're supposed to, you can think like all those renters that are out there, or people who, let's say that it's an older home, or maybe low wife acceptance factor. That can happen every once in a while. You can run those, you don't have to run those wires up to the wall and cut holes in the ceiling. You just pop that on top and it'll reflect the sound off the ceiling. That's built right into the tower. And it's nice. It doesn't look like a little, it doesn't look like it's, just plopped on top of the speaker. It looks like it's a part of the actual structure. It looks like it's intentional. Now, that comes built into the 9080. Nothing else to do, but the rest of the models, you can add it on to it as well. And I'll get through some of the prices on that front as we go forward. The living room form factor, I'll show you a picture of these front on to the next slide. But when you're looking at them straight on from the place that you're going to look at, it's just a very unassuming, slim-looking tower. It's when we say living room friendly, you don't even have to tow them in. I mean, in fact, we don't recommend that you do because of the bipolar sound. You can just put them face on, and it looks great when you just flank at a TV stand, or if it's sitting to the left and right of a TV that's mounted on the wall. It looks awesome. The speaker wire management that we talked about, for the module that I talked about earlier, you can see on the back side of that speaker, we have the back panel and what it looks like. You have 2 individual inputs for the speakers. That's not for bi-amping or bi-wiring. You have your line level for your left and right, and then you have the module up top. So you don't have to run a speaker wire up the back of the speaker, plug it in and dress it up, plug it right in the back of the speaker like you were going to anyways, and you're good to go. You also see right next to it a bass knob. Now that isn't a normal bass knob. That's our intelligent bass control. What we did on this new BP 9000 series is a little bit different than what we had done in the past. Whenever you turn the volume up on a subwoofer, you bring the volume up on all of the frequencies. Yeah, Chris has got a little cutout there for you to see while I'm talking. So as you turn the volume knob up, you raise the volume on all of the bass frequencies that subwoofer is responsible for. So you had to EQ a bunch of stuff up at the upper register of that bass because it got a little bit, cumbersome, and you started getting that whoa, whoa, whoa sound like bass was covering up your mid-range. And we knew that was an issue. And you deal with any customer who has any subwoofer bass knob. I mean, they're burying that thing as soon as you guys walk out the door. That's just what customers do. So what we did in order to help that customer who wants a ton of bass, but also cares about clarity, As you turn that bass knob up, we're going to change the slope internally so that while your lower frequencies will raise, it's not going to raise the upper register bass frequencies quite as much, so it doesn't cover up your highs and mids. So the customer's going to get more of that bass they want. You're going to get that pound and that slam, but it's not going to sound like a big dumb car audio system that a 16-year-old puts in the trunk of their Honda Civic. This is a bass for adults. It's a really great way to essentially babysit the customer without you actually being there. And of course, see at the bottom left right there, right next to the power input, this is dual voltage switch. So if you're dealing with a lot of tourists who are going to other continents, they can take them with them, and you don't have to worry, just flip that switch, and you're good for those different voltages that you're going to get in different parts of the world. Full line. So prices on these are just money. I mean, BP 9080 with the module included is only $2,000. If you look, the left has the A90 module that you see on the top left for $550 for a pair. If you see on the left hand side, that's what they look like with them installed, and on the right side, that's what they look like with them out installed. So either with or without, it looks like it's supposed to be there. It doesn't look like a cheap add-on. These are great speakers to utilize. Also, everything I said about bipolar and everything I said about subwoofers being built into the cabinets, the center channels do too. So the center channels are also bipolar. They also have subwoofers built in, and we utilize subwoofers and center channels because center channels are usually going straight in the center of the room, which is like the worst place for bass. So we beef up that bass so you can have that clarity and that detail for someone whose voice is a little bit lower, like mine. Like most subwoofers pick up the lower register of my voice, but it doesn't sound like it's coming from the subwoofer over in the corner of the room. It sounds like it's coming from where it's supposed to, right out of the middle of the TV. It's a great solution. And then our surrounds, you see on the top, we got a little boy and a big boy. SR9080 and the SR9040 for 400 and 300. These speakers are also bipolar. They give you a crazy wide sound stage. They're able to really shore up those spaces between channels if you got to put them in less than ideal places. We got tweet and mid on one side, aim those at the customer, and you got bass radiators on the side, aim those away from the customer, and they'll fill up the room with more low frequency bass. These things are a ton of fun. They're built for Dolby Atmos and DTS:X, which if you've been to a Denon training or if you're coming to the Marantz training, you're going to hear all about it. Like, we're ready to go for all of those great new three-dimensional audio formats that are going to be in Denon and Marantz receivers built in, ready for customers to take advantage of them. So ton of fun with this line. I've sold it for years. It is a crowd pleaser. If your customer's ready to party, these are the speakers to go with. They absolutely slam, but are in no way an unintelligent speaker. Is EQing these difficult as they sound like they self-EQ? All right, let's go back. That's a good question, Kevin. Oh, and Kevin, hi, how are you? We were talking earlier. So no, they're not difficult to EQ here. So one thing that I'm glad you asked that question, because I completely forgot to go over this. You have options. If you look in the top right corner, you've got the LFE input. As soon as, so if you want to plug these and utilize the woofers for the entire multi-channel system and skip a sub, don't recommend that. But if you got a customer who just is not playing and they have no room for an extra sub, you plug in the LFE into that one. Now here's the thing. As soon as you plug in the LFE into these, it completely disengages the intelligent bass control on the subwoofer. Then you can get in there and EQ them as you see fit. If you're not utilizing that, then you basically plug them in, you set the volume on where you want it to be, and then you can EQ that slope as through whatever whichever Denon or Marantz receiver you're going to hook up to these things. You can use the Odyssey software to EQ them. Obviously, that slope's going to change if you adjust the knob. So if you have a customer who, wants everything EQ perfectly, you really get the choice. You can do it yourself and utilize the LFE channel and then EQ from there, or you can set the volume and then, pull them aside and say, don't touch that knob. And then it won't screw up any of your EQ from that point forward. But yeah, as soon as you plug in that, it disengages that. Good question. Thank you, Kevin. The Demand series is the next line. So this is a more traditional speaker. It's called what it is. This is a box speaker it's passive and it's got a more luxurious finish. but we're still going to take the same approach that we have for the rest of our line as far as the technologies that we use. A couple of differences between the BP series and the Demand series. Number one, we get a front aluminum baffle. So we ditched the cloths for these, and we're going to show off some beautiful painted finishes and a structurally sound aluminum front baffle. So as those bass drivers and that mid-range driver are doing work and just pounding, you know, we got a nice solid aluminum structure for them to mount into to absorb those frequencies and quiet that whole system down. So you're hearing what you're supposed to hear, not the bad behavior of the cabinet, because we've reinforced it with that front aluminum baffle. The offset tweeters are there to eliminate the effect of diffraction. When you put a tweeter inside a flat surface, you give it these two reflection points to reflect off. It makes it sound frankly boxy, like it's inside of a box, because it's inside of a box. So what we do is we put it to the left and right of the actual speaker to really eliminate a lot of that diffraction that you get by putting it dead smack in the center. You have a little bit of flexibility with that. I always recommend putting the tweeters on the inside to get really that focused sound. But if you have a customer who wants a crazy wide sound stage and doesn't really care that much about them, you put them on the outside. But there is a left and a right speaker for these. It has to do with the way that tweeter is set. The linear response waveguide on the mid-range, you can see there, it's that big bulb in the center of the mid-range driver. It's also going to help you with that, spread that mid-range sound out really wide. And we're going to use a BDSS driver. So behind that bulb, you'll be able to see a second surround system that allows that driver to punch way above its weight class. It can get way more excursion. So the 6.5 that you see in these models is going to sound like a crazy large mid-range driver. It's really going to punch above its weight class. Again, painted black, gloss black or whites, and you're going to get an upgraded woofers on these things. So these aren't powered woofers like the BP90s, but we are going to upgrade your woofers, and we're going to use a carbon fiber woofer. We use carbon fiber because when you look at bass drivers and you get real tweaky and nerdy, and you get into like the theoretical realm, the ideal bass driver would be infinitely lightweight, infinitely strong, so it wouldn't change its shape. I mean, if we're going to infinitely cheap, that would be sweet. But essentially, it'd be like a race car that goes 0 to 60 as fast as a race car can go without killing a driver, turns as hard as it can without killing a driver, and gets good gas mileage. Like that's what we're chasing whenever we design bass drivers. And carbon fiber gives us as close to that as possible. It allows us to get super lightweight, but not lose any of that rigidity. If a bass driver flexes, you get distortion, and it sounds, and not to pick on the 16-year-olds, but again, it sounds like one of those, you know, hand-me-down Honda Civic systems that we were all probably a little guilty of building when we were in our teens, just putting way too much bass in tiny little cars. Nothing against that, but that's not correct as far as the accuracy and the when you EQ a system, what it should sound like. So carbon fiber gives us the ability to get that strength so it doesn't flex, and then it also keeps it lightweight so it can be very very fast. So you can get those attacks without it sounding like a big dumb car audio subwoofer. So it's both. And then on top of that, you can see on the bottom inside of each one of those cabinets, you're going to get dual passive bass radiators. You're going to get them on both sides. That allows us to close up this box, so we don't have any ports, but we don't have any of the disadvantages of a closed box system where you get that super sharp roll off. We're going to get that nice deep roll off in areas where we needed to tune this. So those are all tuned. And you know what? I should throw this out here now so I don't have to talk about it later. Anytime I talk about a passive bass radiator, we tune these to each individual model that the bass radiator is going to be in. So these are tuned per models. And then for both, I think looks, number one, I think they look fantastic, but also for the strength and rigidity and keeping everything locked in, we're going to give you cast aluminum bases with integrated aluminum spikes and casters, aluminum spikes and pads, so that you can place these things and really get everything out of the speakers. Again, available in black and white, and it's a pretty easy lineup to talk to customers about. You've got a D7, tiny little itty bitty bookshelf speaker. I call it adorable. It's awesome, but it's a little guy, and it's only $500 for a pair. So you think like that, inexpensive dead receiver, nice little stereo system all day. When you jump up to the D9 for $750, you're obviously going to get a bigger cabinet, but you're also going to get a passive bass radiator on the top. You're going to get a 5x9 bass radiator on the top of these speakers. So you're going to get a ton of bottom of those things for $750 a pair. Absolutely slam. They're killer. When you jump up to the D11, $900 a pair. Again, bigger cabinet, more presence, more boom boom. You get a bigger bass radiator. It's a killer little bookshelf speaker. And then the center channel for theater enthusiasts, and then you get the D15 and the D17, a smaller three-way speaker and a larger three-way speaker. So you can really do your more traditional systems, traditional surround sound systems, traditional stereos. These are killer speakers that not only look great, but they sound absolutely fantastic. Really killer system. And you can see the sensitivities on these. You can drive them all day. They're awesome. Moving right along, we have the Pro Cinema Systems. We have been using these, selling these for I don't know, years. I used to sell them when I was a newbie on the sales floor. The old PC 600s. Now we changed up some of the model numbers, but these are let's call what it is. These are built to maybe go after a company that's known for making small satellite speaker systems. Maybe they have they look kind of like cubes. Maybe these are killer little Pro Cinema systems for customers who want a satellite style system, and we have a couple different options for you in order to meet your customers' needs. Remember, these are the same technologies that we've been talking about trickled down into much less expensive application-based, in this case, speaker systems. So you're going to have, like I said, a couple options. You got, as far as the tech goes, you're going to get that 1-inch aluminum tweeter. You're going to get a BDS mid-range driver. And I'm glad I mentioned earlier we're going to see this. This is that ring that I was talking about, where right behind this waveguide that spreads the sound out and gives you a wide sound stage, you got two surrounds, one around the outside and one in the middle. So this is the Pro Cinema 6D speaker. This is about the size of a beer can, and it'll give you some scale. This thing is a tiny little speaker, but it plays so loud because of that BDS sound surround. It really allows that little tiny driver to get a ton of excursion and move a ton of air. You can also see on top this little gap on the top. That's what it looks like with the grill on. But on the back side, you can see that little gap. That's the passive bass radiator that you're going to get on these. And you can see on the bottom, you have the keyhole mount. And then we have a couple of mounts to use. Like, so we have the Pro Mount 80 to use with the little guys. And then you have the Pro Mount 90 to use with the heavier speakers. And I'm going to show you right about now. See if my computer speeds up. The Pro Cinema 6D is $1,000. Comes with the 8-inch subwoofer that also has a passive bass radiator, and includes 4 satellites and 1 center channel. The Pro Monitor 800 down on the left. So the Pro Cinema 6D that you see at the top for $1,000. That's like the all-one box system. The Pro Monitor 800 and the Pro Monitor 1000 you see on the bottom left, and the Pro Center 1000, Pro Center 2000. This is when you want to piece it together. A little bit larger, but all these will fit on, like the center channels. They'll all fit on a mantelpiece. They all are going to use the same mounts. The center channels use 2 for better rigidity, and also, so it doesn't flex. You get a left and a right mount, and they connect up with those same binding posts that you saw on the back on the previous slide. So you can really mix and match these along with the subwoofers that I'll show you later in order to build those satellite systems for customers who need a little bit more than the Pro Cinema 6D is offering as far as output's concerned. But a ton of options for you to really build satellite systems within these. And then when they don't want to see anything, we've got 3 lines. Now we have a performance line, this is our reference line, a performance line, and we'll call it a problem solver line when you see the price points. The UIW series, this is the reference line. It's a pretty versatile lineup. You've got 2 in-wall line LCRs, 2 in-walls. You got 2 in-ceilings LCRs. You got an in-wall bipolar surround, and then you've got an in-wall subwoofer. That top right, that's the subwoofer. So you're going to get an 8-inch woofer and a passive bass radiator. It's also 8 inches, tuned for that. And it is retrofittable. So you just pop it in the wall, even if the walls are up. If you can run the wire to the amp to run that, the subwoofer amp, you're good to go. So the in-wall subwoofer is $1,500 each, and the amp that can drive 2 is $800. So for $3,800, you have a 0.2 system that you don't see. Cool little setup. The pro tip as far as installation goes: mount the in-ceiling bipolar surrounds like a foot off the wall. So you go in the ceiling, bring it out a foot off that wall that you're going up against, and it allows those bass waves to reflect off the wall, bounce back into the room, get you a little bit more bottom end. But one of the things to notice with that on the top left, you get the benefits of a angled baffle rather than just a little aimable tweeter, which, you know, your mids and your bass are still firing directly to the floor, does nothing. You know, with an angled baffle, it lowers the sound stage so the customer doesn't get that disorienting effect where their TV's mounted on the wall, they see things coming from the TV, but all the sound's coming from above the TV. So they see the character talking on the screen, but it's coming from a different place. It's really disorienting. When you have that angled baffle, it lowers that sound stage out of the ceiling, so it sounds like it's coming out of the TV, even though it's mounted 6 feet above it, coming out of the ceiling. Really cool effect. Really helps you sell a better overall in-ceiling speaker for those customers that want an in-ceiling multi-channel solution for theater purposes. It just makes everything a lot easier. And then obviously the line source on the bottom. Prices on these are killer. You see, like you're going from, you know, from $550 all the way up to $1,000. You can build some really cool systems and make some money with that particular line. When that isn't necessarily available, or when customers want to do, you know, distributed audio and they want to put a little bit lower emphasis on the sound quality, say in the guest bedroom than they do out in the living room, you can use these particular speakers as well, the DI series. The DI series is your go-to speaker for all distributed audio systems. So you've got a ton of options in these. 6 different in-ceilings that range from 3.5-inch drivers that'll match can lights, all the way up to 8-inch drivers that sound the best. And then you have 2 in-wall and 2 in-ceiling squares. So if you have a if the customer wants a square option, we have that as well. And then you have the 2 LCRs in walls for your theater purposes. Whenever you want to do an LCR, you sell the same option 3 times and you're good to go. Wide price range on these. You're going from $230 all the way up to $500, but with so many different options, you can really match it up. They come with aimable tweeters. There's even an option for dual voice coils. So if you're in a bathroom and you don't have any room for a second speaker, you can still run stereo out of one. So you just plug in your left and your right wires into one speaker and it'll play both. Dual voice coil, and then yeah, it's a killer solution. Don't forget to mix and match these things. I always get orders for the same speaker times 27, and I seriously doubt that customers value the sound in their formal dining room that they use twice a year on Thanksgiving and Christmas as they do the room that they use every single day, their kitchen and their living room. So feel free to mix and match these particular lines of speakers so that you can give customers the performance that they crave in areas that they're in the most, like their living room, and then scatter it throughout the less expensive models throughout the house, which brings me to my less expensive option, the DT series. The DT series is when, you know, budget's low and you got to make it fit. So you got 3 options. You got a 6.5-inch stereo, and an 8-inch in-ceiling. So you can do that same thing I was talking about with a stereo, a dual voice coil in the ceiling for small spaces, and you're talking crazy low prices. I mean, in-ceilings, that 6.5-inch in-ceiling is $200. So you can really squeeze in every last dollar from the customer's budget and fit in all the things that they want using these prices. Then the in-walls, you have 2 in-walls. You have a 6 and an 8, and it's at $230 and $280. So you can really solve some problems. If this is like your bread and butter, and this is what you're selling a ton, you're leaving money on the table. Like this, this is the problem solver SKU. You should be spending most of your time in here maximizing the customer's budget. And the nice thing about Definitive Technology, and anytime you're getting from a performance brand like Definitive Technology, there are differences. We all know the other brands that are out there that there's no difference between their entry-level model and their low model. They're there for their margin, and that's it. But whenever you have Definitive Technology speakers, when customers go from one speaker to the next, they're getting really, we'll say, definitive differences in their overall performance as they go up through, and it incentivizes them to spend more money because they're actually going to get something when they do. This is, so if you're spending all of your time in the DT series, push a little harder, tell customers the advantages of having a better baffle, having better surrounds. You know, you're also, I should mention, these have the micro grills, so they have a tiny little grill around the outside. They look better. I mean, there's all types of reasons to get customers out of the entry-level stuff and into this stuff. And we try to give you enough products so that you can meet all customers' needs. It's a great solution. When you're going outside, and this actually came up before we started this meeting, when you talk about, you know, marine grade speakers from other companies. These are same possibility. You got the option to put these things outside and get great performance when you're going outside. That was big this past year. A ton of people upgraded their sound system on their back patio around their pool, and these are great options for this. These are some of our, I'll call it, these some of our most popular speakers. These are killer speakers. We sell a ton of these. Our all-weather speakers, I think a lot of it has to do with the price. I mean, $250 a pop for an outdoor all-weather speaker with a passive bass radiator. I mean, it's just killer. So you got the 5500 and the 6500. Only difference is size. The 6500s absolutely crush basses. They are so loud, but controlled for outdoor listening. And they have a really cool feature that your installers can pay. If you can pay attention to this, this is big. You have, essentially, it's like a V-shaped speaker. On one side is the tweet and the mid bass driver, and on the back side is the passive bass radiator. So if you think of like where people mount these things on back patios, like underneath the eave, if you mount these up underneath the eave horizontally, aim the tweet and the mid to firing down into the listening area and reflect the bass from that passive bass radiator off that eave, you get a tremendous amount of slam out of these speakers, and they don't have to spend 20 minutes explaining to the customer why it's going to look like it's a mushroom right outside their deck buried in the dirt. You can just mount these up and let it go. Connect it up into whatever amplifier you use to run these things. Are very easy to drive, rock and roll. You're all day with these things. It's a killer solution. Also remember, these you can be mounted vertically. So if you need to get it out a lot wider and aim in towards it, you can do that as well. And then bass. These are brand spanking new. I just got my 12-inch installed. And I'll tell you a story about it. These are our new high performance models. We have 4 different models for our subwoofers: an 8-inch, a 10-inch, a 12-inch, and a 15-inch. Prices are right where you'd want them, $500 to $1,800. Now, we do things a little bit differently at Definitive Technology. Remember, we use passive bass radiators a lot. And with these subwoofers, that's no difference. Each one of these subwoofers is going to have an active driver and 2 passive bass radiators of the same size. So essentially what you're getting is 3 radiating structures in one tiny little box. That creates a ton of bass. So our 8 performs like a 10, our 10 performs like a 12, our 12 performs like a 15, and our 15-inch hammer performs like an 18-inch monster, all keeping the size a little bit smaller. Our patent pending intelligent phase control allows you to really dial these things in, as far as getting them set up for each of those rooms. You always run into phasing. So we give you, I believe, 6 individual phases. You can go plus or minus 90 degrees, plus or minus 180. I mean, we give you a ton of phase controls. It took me a good while to go through it in my own room and get it all set up. But it really allows you to dial these things in. They're all have 56-bit DSPs and 3 different EQs for all of these. And we're going to use 2 different amplifiers. So if you're dealing with the 8-inch and the 10-inch, you're going to use a Class D amplifier. There's a ton of power, and this allows it to just absolutely rip. Once you get into the 12-inch and the 15-inch, you're going to jump up to our Class H amplifier. What it is essentially it's a sliding rail voltage. So when you got to get down to those 20 hertz tones, not just the punch, but the sustain of a low frequency 20 hertz, we're going to give you 1,500 watts of power to play with because we have that sliding rail voltage that allows us to deliver continuous 20 hertz tones at just absurd volumes. These things absolutely slam. I plug this thing in. It's down in my basement, standing next to the Peloton bike that I don't use, but my wife does. And she was using the Peloton bike. I popped on Beyonce Partition, and it was sitting right next to her, and she had headphones on, and all of a sudden she almost fell off the bike. I mean, it just moved the whole damn house. It is nuts the amount of power you can get out of that 12 because that sliding rail voltage. I mean, that sweep just extended down to the floor. It was nuts. And you're going to get that on the big boy subs from the 12 and the 15. Again, look at these prices, a 15-inch sub for $1,800, and it has dual passive radiators. I mean, and 1,500 watts of power. I mean, it's absurd how much fun you're going to be able to have with these things. They come in black and white. The big boys only come in black, but the 8-inch and the 10-inch come in black and in white. Killer solution, lots of power, tons of fun. I'm so excited for these things, in case you can't already tell. The other option that we have, and this is one that we're going to talk about in depth because it is the most popular growing category available right now, is the Studio 3D Mini. So when we're talking about sound bars, I mean, every year you look, they're up like 30% year over year. Everyone's buying sound bars. And in a time when it's difficult to get sound bars from one particular manufacturer, it's going to be something that you should know about because this thing is an absolute killer. For $900, you're going to get a sound bar and the wireless subwoofer in one box. So this is not your off the shelves. No offense to Walmart, but this is not going to be sold there. This is a premium bar and it has premium finishes. It's not a piece of plastic. It's not wrapped in a sock. This is, it doesn't have a screaming television logo on it. This is a premium bar for more discerning customers with a brushed aluminum top, chiseled angular features. I mean, this thing is killer. And it's only 2 inches tall. So if you want to put this on a stand right underneath the TV, it's not going to block IR signals. It's a nice, slim little bar. And it's only 26 inches wide. So if you think of another bar that's out there, it doesn't come with a wireless sub. It's like 40% bigger, and then we do all the same things. I mean, it's a killer little solution. It has that subwoofer that comes with is not a little, we've all seen the little soundbar subwoofers. They call them subwoofers, but they're like the size of a 12-pack. They're like, there's no way, they're like 6-inch drivers. This is not that one of those subwoofers. This is legit 8-inch long throw subwoofer that will actually move air. This thing is killer. It's not a overemphasized bass driver. This thing's a legit subwoofer. And on top of that, you're going to get DTS:X and Dolby Atmos decoding built into this. That's important when you look at those angles on the side. Those angles on the side have speakers built into them. I'll get into that in a second. You're going to use HDMI eARC. Any of you who have used Denon and Marantz receivers before know how awesome and reliable eARC is. I mean, you plug it in and it works. And you're also going to have the streaming services. So for those customers who want to do distributed audio systems, wireless distributed audio systems in their house, you now have another option that gives them the ability to do wireless distributed audio throughout their house when maybe some other companies aren't difficult to get these days. HEOS being built in, it also has AirPlay 2 for the Apple head. So, I mean, you've also got Spotify Connect. I mean, there's a ton of options that allow customers to play music that they want to play it directly to this bar. And because it's a high performance company and it uses HEOS, it is high res capable. I mean, you can have that conversation about, the new Dolby Atmos capabilities and high res capabilities in Apple Music with these guys, because you're going to be able to do that through HEOS. And also you can control it with all of the voice controls that are out there from Google, Siri, and Alexa, obviously. So you can control this, get it into the voice control world. Again, 8-inch woofer, real woofer, but I want you to pay attention to the technology we use in these things. Pull the grills off some of those other sound bars that are made by television manufacturers. You're going to see a lot of dorky little 1/4-inch plastic tweeters. When you're trying to solve customers' needs, and one of their big needs is they can't understand the vocals of who's talking on the screen, they can't understand what they're saying. A lot of that has to do with detail. They can't understand what they're saying because they're not getting, when someone enunciates, they're not hearing all those super high frequencies, because they're using dorky little 1/4-inch plastic tweeters. You're getting a full 1-inch aluminum dome, the same dome that's in the 9080 tower for $2,000. You're going to get a $900 soundbar. So your detail and vocals is off the charts. You're not going to have any issues there. On top of that, you're going to get those side racetrack radiators. In order to get it 2 inches tall, we shape the driver differently so that we get the same surface area, but it fits in instead of using like little 2-inch circles, we're using 2-inch tall ovals to get the same surface area of a larger driver in a smaller space. But they're on the side firing. So we angle the drivers out. The sound stage you get out of this bar, it's only 26 inches wide, but the sound stage you get out of this is just crazy wide. Again, sounds like the whole wall is on because of the way we tune these things to fire sound out sideways. Tremendous value play to tell customers who want a theater experience but don't have spousal approval for a full theater. This thing absolutely rips. And if I can speak from my own personal experiences with it, they sent me my demonstration bar that I'm happy to bring to any of the MRI shops. Just give me a call, guys. I sent it to me. I plugged it in. I popped on Moana, that movie, that kids movie, or The Rock's in it. If you haven't seen it, even if you're not into kids movie, it's hysterical. The Rock's awesome in it. But I popped on. It's some scene with like angry coconuts on a pirate ship, and they're banging on drums. My whole house is shaking. The kids are jacked. They're having fun. It was this thing absolutely rips for not a whole lot of of dough. And yes, this recording will be available for reviewing. We're happy to send it to you. Control-wise, we work with Control 4, because of course we do. But plug it in. I mean, built-in power supply, so you don't have to worry about that brick hanging off the power cord. It's the connect and sync buttons on the back. That's for the sub. I've never used them. And the thing just connects automatically. But if you ever run into connect issues, that's how you solve it right there. And then you have the connectivity that you expect to give you a little bit more flexibility. You have an auxiliary input for plugging in the old aux cable. At this point, I don't even know when you'd use that anymore with HEOS being built into it, but it's there in case the customer has a situation where they need to use it. You have an optical input. Remember though, with optical, you're going to max out at Dolby 5.1. Optical can't carry the DTSX, they can't carry the Dolby Atmos signal. So make sure you're using that eARC signal right there. You plug in one cable into the ARC option on the TV, you plug the other end into the back of that. Anything that plays on the TV now plays through the bar. Little use case scenario too. My wife loves that because, and she doesn't know why it happens, but she loves that feature because the volume for the television remote, it's my kid's playroom TV. So like it's just TV on the wall, bar underneath it, mounted underneath it. I should mention there's keyholes to the left and right, so it's easy to mount. When you use the eARC function, all the volume for the bar shows up on the TV slider. So there's nothing to learn. It just turns itself on and switches inputs as it needs to, just getting all the information through eARC. No, Jonathan, this is not going to use the Denon surrounds because this is built in. It does everything all in one unit, and it's crazy. The acoustic, we'll call it acoustic wizardry, because I don't remember what it's called, but they use to essentially, like I'm constantly turning around, like when things are firing to rear channels that aren't there. The tricks it plays in your ear with this thing is nuts. But no, it doesn't have integrated surrounds, but you're still going to get surround feels because of the way that they're able to play with the acoustics, thanks to DTSX and object-based decoding, which if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, tune in next week for our Marantz training where me and Pete will dive deep on that stuff. Again, HEOS built in. I don't want to harp on it, but this is one of those options. I mean, it's distributed audio that you actually make money when you sell. I can't stress that enough. It's whole home distribution. We're going to have all the apps that people are using. You're going to be able to do it in high res. And you're going to be able to throw it in with whatever voice control system that you're working. This is built into the bar. So at times when it's difficult to get things, we know that that's going to happen. It's times when it's difficult to get things, like you have another option in your arsenal. So keep your minds open to HEOS and all the different HEOS products out there, but this does have HEOS built into it. That being said, word to the wise, based on chipset levels and my little crystal ball, particularly for bars with the upcoming holiday season coming up, get your orders for bars in now. Everyone is going to run out. And during the holidays, we don't want to disappoint anybody. So if you have the means now, stock up on bars in advance. And that's all I'll really say on that matter. And that's it. So that's the full Definitive Technology line. I appreciate the time you guys gave us to tell you about Definitive Technology, as well as Denon last week and Marantz next week. Really are happy to be working with Snap One and all of their dealers. This is going to be a ton of fun. You have our QR codes from the previous, from earlier in the presentation. I'm going to pop that slide back up on the screen while we talk. But right there, that's all of us in our QR code. So if you have technical questions out in the field, let me know. That's my QR code in the top right corner of the screen. Scan that QR code and it'll dump my V card in your phone, as it will for Chris, Kendall, Jeff, Tim, Pete. We're all here to help you guys out in any way we can. Questions coming up in the chat. We already answered that question live. What would we use for height speakers with the BP 9060? For height speakers, if they're on the actual speaker, you use the A90 attachment. And if you're using height speakers that can go in the ceiling, you can use any of our architectural options that we talked about. I'm a big fan, and this is me just probably selling out of my own pocket, but whatever, out of the DI series. I love their little micro grill. It offends no one. Everyone's happy with it. They think it looks great, and they absolutely rip. They just absolutely slam it. You get the aimable tweeters, which is great for Atmos channels where you know, placement, you need to be a little bit more flexible in order to get them where they need to be. So I use those DI speakers to get them up above. Oh, and if you've got to go on the wall for actual height speakers, use the, for 9060s, I would use the Pro Monitor 1000 or 800. That would work well. So I would use these right. Yeah. I'm jumping around on this because my computer is fighting to do basic requests. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I'd use the Pro Monitor 1000. Get the Pro Monitor 90 mount to mount it up. And then the wire will just come right out of the wall into the back. It'll look nice and clean. If you got to do like actual heights, like up above the speaker. But remember, you got the A90 module, and you also have the in-ceiling options as well.
Hey, Seth, would you mind throwing up the picture of the 9080 with the height module that's integrated in the speaker?
Yeah, I'll put up the whole line. That's what it looks like in person.
Nice. Yeah. So to Mitchell, yeah, it's integrated. That's exactly what it looks like. The tall boy. And it is silver.
All right, are there recommended pairings for Denon and Marantz with Definitive for particular applications? Yeah, and it's no different than any other speaker. If you wanted to play louder and clearer, buy better electronics. So if you want the absolute best performance out of a Definitive technology speaker, get into those separates that you can get from Marantz. Get into, you know, some badass processors and some external amps and let them rip. If you got to do it effectively and your cost is a budget, you'll be seeing a new Denon receiver coming out hopefully pretty soon. That will do that for like $500-600. How much is that new 1700 that we're talking about, Chris?
I think it's $599.
Yeah, like $599. It'll run, you know, your more modest systems effectively. I mean, let's not try to power 9080s with a potato. Like, you don't want to go crazy, but these are pretty free. They are pretty efficient speakers, so you don't need a ton of power. Need is subjective. They sound awesome when you use great electronics. They sound like what they sound like whenever you use lesser electronics. Denon and Marantz, pretty much the entire portfolio can run something in the Definitive technology realm. I love the little, for me, my go-to like inexpensive system was the Pro Cinema package with like the $800 receiver. Runs all day. Everyone loves it. It's a great solution as long as the room's not too crazy big. I mean, you can run that stuff all day long. But the towers, give them some love. They'll give it right back. They're cool. They're fun.
Hey, Seth, I think one thing that's important to throw out to these guys too is, don't be afraid to throw a little bit beefier center channel. Like, so I'm using the 9060 center, the CS 9060 with a pair of 9040. So I wanted a little bit more heavy center channel, right? Something a little bit beefier. But again, it doesn't have to be the 9040 with the 9040, the CS 9060 with the 9060.
And Edmundo, I've never run into that problem. I've never used that particular amp before. They're not the most difficult things to drive. I mean, not to throw out names, but I've run them with a Sonos amp before and they work fine. So I've never run into that exact problem before. Get in touch with our tech support. We'll get that straightened out if that happens to you again. That's it.
All right, guys. Yeah.
So we answer all the questions. That was fun.
Fantastic.
I like listening
Awesome.
to myself talk.
No, great job, Seth, as always. You have such clear focus on what you've done in the past and how these guys can apply it for the future. Love the speaker talks. Chris, what do you got, man? Any last words? And we're going to do this a little bit later on today. So guys, if you have to pass this on to your team, make sure you do that. Make sure you register, and we'll be back in 4 more hours to do this all again. Remember, look in your inbox and I'll tidy everything up and get something to you guys to follow up to pass to your team. Chris, great job, man. What do you got?
I think that's it. Just like you said, Gary, we will be back here live in 4 hours.
Try to get some work done in the meantime, right, guys?
That's right.
All right, Seth, buddy. Thank you so much. And in each and every day that we work with Seth, he's got a great, one-liner, and I'd say power it with a potato. That one takes today. All right. So with that, everybody, thank you guys so much for joining our weekly webinar series. Hopefully it was beneficial for you guys. Let's continue the speaker conversation this whole entire week. Next Wednesday, we are going to wind this whole thing down with Marantz. Can't wait. We are just so privileged to have these guys on board. The support is there. You guys know we're going to get these guys live in the field and into our locations as well. For something to look forward to in the next few months as this campaign continues to expand and continue to evolve. Great job, guys. Let's get some stuff done and get back to work. Everybody look at my inbox, your inbox on Friday morning. I am Gary from all of us at Snap One Partner Stores. That is MRI, AllNet, Custom Plus, and from Volutone from LA. Thanks again, guys. We'll catch you in a few more hours. Great job.